Chapter 31. Fang Yuan. You're in huge trouble. I've trained hard in basic martial arts for 7 consecutive days, but to think I only managed to endure 2 strikes from Fang Yuan and lost consciousness afterwards. Shame, unforgivable shame. Gu Yumo Bei exclaimed, full of anguish and regret. In the family garden, he faced the wooden puppet, unleashing punches and kicks that were resulting in resounding echoes. Suddenly, he heard a laughing voice. Little brother, do you have deep hatred for the puppet? Why the great resentment? Upon hearing this familiar voice, Gu Yumo Bei relaxed and stopped his attacks. He turned his head. Sister, you're back. The family council sent me out for an investigation mission which lasted more than 10 days. Gu Yumo Yin laughingly replied. She was Mo Bei's blood-related sister, a rank 2 middle-stage Gu master. But soon, her face turned grim, her eyes sharply gazing at Mo Bei. Brother, what's the matter with those bruises on your face? Who bullied you? It's nothing. I accidentally tripped and fell. A hint of panic flashed across Mo Bei's face as he came up with an excuse. He did not wish for his sister to know of such an embarrassing event. The truth of the Mo family's future heir and the family head, Gu Yumo Chin's beloved grandson, consecutively knocked out twice in combat. But the fortunate thing was that he wasn't the only unlucky one. The others had suffered as well. Oh, you have to be more careful in that case. As for your combat training, this won't do. You do not have a gut hat enhances your defense right now, so use thick towels to cover yourself. This will protect your limbs from getting hurt. Gu Yumo Yin instructed before leaving. Hello, young miss. Good morning, young miss. Young miss is back. Your servant greets you, miss. Gu Yumo Yin hastily walked with a cold demeanor, and the servants she met on the way bowed and paid respects to her without fail. She walked to the study room. Without any warning, Mo Yin pushed the door and entered through. Inside the room, Gu Yumo Chun was practicing his calligraphy art with his back facing her. Your back? Gu Yumo Chun asked directly without turning his body. After investigating for half a month, what is the situation with the wolf's den? How did you know it's me, grandfather? Mo Yin gasped, slightly taken aback. Humph. In the entire family, you're the only person that dares to enter my room without even knocking the door once. Who else can it be besides you, my beloved granddaughter? Gu Yumo Chun reprimanded, although his face showed traces of concern and warmth, and he looked at Mo Yin with a smile, and Mo Yin pouted. When it comes to doting, you actually adore little brother more. However, since he's the future family head, you are more strict on him, so others cannot sense your concern for him. After a while, she asked, Grandfather, little brother was beaten up. I asked him, and he lied about the situation, so I had no choice but to ask you. Gu Yumo Chin's face turned serious. You have not answered my question. He put down his brush and sat down. Mo Yin reluctantly reported. The wolf's den is almost full, so according to the current rate of breeding speed, although there won't be an outbreak this year, there will definitely be a wolf tide next year at our mountain village. Gu Yumo Chun inquired again. Generally, there's an outbreak every 3 years, so this is no surprise. However, within that horde, how many Thunder Crown wolves are there? Around 3. Gu Yumo Chun nodded, feeling assured. The Thunder Crown wolves were the head of the pack, and were the most troublesome to deal with during an outbreak. 3 wasn't a large number since Qingmao Mountain had 3 clan villages. Each village could handle 1 wolf, and the pressure of the outbreak would be greatly reduced. Grandfather, you have not told me about my little brother's matter yet. Mo Yin pursued again. I suppose there's no matter telling you, but he was beaten up. The first time was 7 days ago, and the second time happened today. It happened in front of the school gates, and he was beaten until he sprawled on the ground and fainted on both occasions. Gu Yumo Chin laughingly replied, Who has the guts to knock out my little brother? Mo Yin stared, wide-eyed. He's a classmate of Mo Bei called Fang Yuan. He fights really well. Gu Yumo Chun sniggered. Gu Yumo Yan's eyes grew larger, and she was perplexed as she replied, Grandfather, what are you saying? He is your own blood-related grandson. Gu Yumo Chun stared deeply at his granddaughter and spoke meaningfully. Mo Yin, my dear, you are a girl, so you may not understand. Defeat and humiliation only serve as fuel for improvement. Without failure, one can never develop and grow into a true, mature man. Mo Bei was defeated, and that is his own failure. Once he wakes up, he will ask fighting techniques from the teachers. This is a sort of improvement, and this improvement comes from Fang Yuan, who beat him into realization. As his sister, if you really care and want to protect your brother, you should not interfere with his growth. Fang Yuan is just a boy with C-grade talent while Mo Bei has B-grade talent. With us supporting him, he will step over Fang Yuan and drive him into the ground eventually. Leave this opponent to Mo Bei. In a woman's life, she needs a family and a lover. But for a man, a family is not a necessity, yet what he cannot lack is a rival. Do not find trouble with Fang Yuan, do you hear me? This is a matter between the youths. If you get involved, this will be perceived as bullying. Breaking the rules like that will cause our Mo family to be looked down upon. Mo Yin gasped wordlessly, but under Guyu Mo Chen's gaze, she finally lowered her head. Yes, grandfather, your granddaughter understands. She staggered out of the study room, but even Guyu Mo Chen did not notice. Her eyes shined ominously. Grandfather, this is your way of loving your grandson. And I, Mo Yin, have my own methods. Mo Yan's heart already had different plans. In the inn's dining room, several tables were occupied and people were having dinner, thus the environment was rather lively. One or two waiters served dishes rapidly, traversing between tables. Fang Yuan sat at the table near the windows. He ordered a few dishes and ate while gazing out of the window. Looking out, the sunset looked like fire, slowly burning away. Half of the sun had already set. It longingly gazed at the lands, its afterglow being the sun's reluctance. Far up the mountains, it was already veiled by the seeping nightfall. The streets nearby were gathered full of people who were going home. Some of them were barefooted, some muddy farmers, some of them herb pickers, some hunters holding mountain pheasants, wild boars and other animals, and some were masters. They wore a blue uniform, looking clean and spirited, a headband and a waist belt completing their appearance. The belt had a specific function. For rank 1 Gu masters, it was a blue belt. There was a bronze plate at the front, and the number 1 could be seen. For rank 2 Gu masters, their belt was red, and the steel plate in the middle showed the number 2. Sitting at the side of the window, Fang Yuan observed that there were 6 to 7 rank 1 Gu masters, and they were mostly young men. There was also a rank 2 Gu master, a middle-aged man.as for rank 3 Gu masters. They were the family elders. And 4th rank would be the clan head, the lord of a village. Rank 5 Gu masters were hardly seen, and in the entire history of the Guyu clan, there were only the 1st generation clan head and the 4th generation clan head who had reached this level. Actually, finding out a clan's strength is very simple. Just find a spot in the village, settle down, and observe the people for a few hours. See how many rank 1 and rank 2 Gu masters there are, and you'll be able to see the clan's strength and wealth. Fang Yuan came to a conclusion with his accumulated knowledge of 500 years. Using the Guyu village as an example, there were around 20 people walking on the streets, and 6 were Gu masters. In these 6, there was a 50% chance of having one rank 2 Gu master. With this strength and capital, the Guyu clan managed to monopolize one of the best resource locations in Qingmao Mountain. But the mountain was just a small corner in the entire area of the southern border. The Guyu clan could only be considered as a middle-low-tier clan. I have only started my cultivation, and with rank 1 initial stage, I do not even have the qualification to roam the southern border. I need at least rank 3 cultivation to be able to further roam the world. Fang Yuan sighed as he consumed his dinner. Qingmao Mountain was too small. It could not contain his ambitions, and he was determined to leave. Ha! Guyu Fang Yuan, I have finally found you. At this moment, a middle-aged man laughed deviously as he approached. Fang Yuan turned slightly to see a man with a yellowish skin tone and hanging brows, but he had a huge body size and developed muscles. He strode several steps to Fang Yuan with his arms folded and proudly stared at the youth who was still consuming his dinner, with a hint of hostility. Fang Yuan, you've gotten yourself into huge trouble. Do you know that? Ha ha ha. You have dared to hit our young master of the Mo family, and now our young miss is here to settle the score with you. The middle-aged man snickered continuously. He constantly stared and sized up Fang Yuan, faintly emitting a threatening aura. Asterisk, this chapter was brought to you by Chibijin and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibijan for helping with the translations. Chapter 32. Making Fun. If a normal person was stared at by this middle-aged man, they would have probably developed fear in their hearts already. However, Fang Yuan lost interest after looking at him for a second and continued focusing on his meal, treating this man as if he were invisible. Who's that guy? He wears the clothing of a family servant, and he is not a Gu master. Why would he dare to question young Master Fang Yuan? An employee wondered as he hid at the corner of the inn, sensing that the situation may turn ugly. Humph. He's like a fox assuming a tiger's ferocity. By using the Mo family as his backing, this servant man dares to clamor at a Gu master. If it were any other mortal man, they wouldn't have the guts to do this, someone beside the employee replied in disdain. Even so, as a mere mortal he has the guts to cause a ruckus towards a Gu master. TSK, this kind of experience must feel really great. TCH, you shouldn't think that a Gu master is always high and mighty. Young Master Fang Yuan is merely a rank 1 initial stage Gu master, and he has just managed to refine his vital Gu. If they were to fight now, he may not be the opponent of this muscular and strong mortal. Sigh, let's just hope that when they fight later, they will spare our inn and the furniture. The employees chattered back and forth, but none dared to take a step forward, only staring from a distance. You still have the mood to continue eating? Seeing as how he did not manage to intimidate or scare Fang Yuan, the muscular middle-aged man had a hint of doubt in his eyes. Do you think I'm lying to you? There are already people reporting to young miss, and she will be here shortly. Do not attempt to run away, young lad, because you won't be able to get away. My job here is to make sure you stay put. There will be much suffering for you later. Fang Yuan paid no heed to the man and continued eating his meal. The middle-aged servant frowned as he did not see a hint of panic or shock from Fang Yuan. This made him feel ignored and his pride was severely offended. He had been a servant in the Mo family for over a decade, and he had acquired the trust of his master. Over a long period, he would naturally come to learn about the details of Gu masters. Rank 1 Gu masters mostly relied on their physical combat skills. In battle, a Gu worm's worth was attributed more to its deterrence factor than as a fighting force. He knew especially that for a young Gu master like Fang Yuan who had just started cultivating, his physical strength was far inferior when compared to a grown man. If it came down to close combat, he who had trained for many years would gain the upper advantage at the same time. Fang Yuan had supposedly only refined the moonlight Gu, so at the max, he would only be able to shoot out several moonblades. The middle-aged man was used as a sparring partner from a long time ago, so he knew deeply that if a rank 1 initial stage Gu master were to use his primeval essence to unleash the moonblade, the most it could do was cut several palm-sized wounds and cause limited damage if it managed to hit the human body. Additionally, the man had the backing of the Mo family, so when he confronted Fang Yuan he had no fear, and was wholeheartedly trying to show off his worth to his masters so that he could be rewarded and deemed more useful to the family. Young lad, you sure are courageous, huh? The middle-aged man's tone was turning unfriendly as he folded up his sleeves, revealing his well-toned and muscular forearms. His 2 arms were large and full of scars. The forearms had thick protruding veins and were even thicker than Fang Yuan's legs. The inn employees watched in fear, and several customers were already getting up, paying the bills, and leaving this land of conflict. Fang Yuan has been found? Suddenly, the door emitted a proud, loud female voice. Mo Yin strode forward in big steps and entered the inn. Behind her were numerous family servants. Her body figure was decent, slightly tall, and had the proper curves. But a long face like a horse's, an inherited gene from the Mo bloodline, caused her looks to be greatly affected, and thus she was only a middle upper tier beauty. However, she wore a dark blue uniform and a red belt, affixed with a square steel plate, tied around her waistline. The steel plate was engraved with a 2. Additionally, she had just returned from after a clan mission, so there was still lingering traces of the hardship that she had just gone through. These added up to create a field of pressure and threat that was emitted to her surroundings. Thus, once she stepped into the inn, the entire place went silent under her aura. Your servant greets you, young miss. The middle-aged man changed his attitude completely upon seeing Mo Yin. He tried to smile charmingly, and he bent his body as he walked a few steps and knelt on the floor, greeting Mo Yan. Upon seeing this change in behavior, the workers in the inn could only stare in shock with their mouths wide open. The tall and muscular figure, as opposed to his humble, groveling attitude, was a great mismatch and was seemingly amusing. But the employees of the inn did not laugh, as his behavior only greatly showed off Mo Yan's imposing pressure and status. Some of the inn workers could not help but worry for Fang Yuan, as he was their major customer. If something were to happen to him and made him unable to patronize the inn any further, it would be a huge loss. More of them were secretly praying for Fang Yuan to surrender. If a fight really broke out and destroyed the inn's property, that would be worse. Mo Yan did not even take a look at the groveling Gao Wan. Her eyes were fixed on Fang Yuan. She took a few steps forward and demanded in a fierce tone, "So you are Fang Yuan? You seem to be having a good meal. Hee. Have you ever had a knuckle sandwich? I'll give you a taste of it. It might be even more delicious." Even though she said that, Mo Yan did not make a move. Fang Yuan's actions were too calm. It was strange. Did he have any secret backers that were protecting him? But it shouldn't be so. I've checked before coming. This Fang Yuan only has an uncle and aunt that dislike him, while both his parents are deceased, and he even got chased out of the house by his uncle and aunt. In addition, he only has C-rank talent, so how could such a weak young man have any sort of background? Mo Yan thought in her mind. Regardless of this, the situation was still too peculiar. She had to test and probe further. Fang Yuan laughed and squinted at Mo Yan, saying, "Who told you I was Guyu Fang Yuan?" Mo Yan was momentarily stunned. Then she took a look at Gao Wan. He had just stood up, but upon seeing this he immediately knelt back down with sweat pouring out of his forehead. He stammered and could not give a coherent reply. "Master, your servant, your servant." They had a drawing of Fang Yuan, but they did not know that Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng were twins that looked almost identical. No wonder this young man looked like he had no fear. He is actually Fang Zheng and not Fang Yuan. Mo Yan's servants guessed in their minds. Fang Yuan cannot be compared to Fang Zheng. The former is merely a C-ranked loner with no background. The latter, however, has a ranked talent and was pulled into the clan head's faction at the awakening ceremony. And as long as he grows smoothly, he has a bright future ahead. Mo Yan did not get proper a reply from Gao Wan, causing her to be even more hesitant at this point. The only ones who knew Fang Yuan's identity were the inn employees. However, they could not afford to offend either parties, so they only kept their mouths shut. Fang Yuan was satiated from his meal. He stood up and glanced lightly at Mo Yan. "You want to find Fang Yuan? Come with me. I'll bring you to the school hostel to look for him." If the person in front of me is Fang Zheng, I would not want to offend him. However, even if he is really Fang Yuan, I will follow him closely on this trip, so I have no fear of him impersonating Fang Zheng. In an instant, Mo Yan made up her mind. "All right, I will go together with you to the school hostel. After you." Mo Yan turned her body to make space for Fang Yuan, stretching out her arm and indicating for Fang Yuan to take the lead. Fang Yuan laughed nonchalantly and strode forth. Mo Yan followed closely behind with her servants trailing at the back. So close. They're finally gone. Even if they start fighting, it is none of our inn's business anymore. The employees that were left behind all sighed in relief as they patted their chests that a group of people approached the school hostel. "Halt. Stop right there. The school hostel only allows our clan's Gu masters to enter and leave." The two guards at the door stopped Fang Yuan, Mo Yan, and her gang. "Insolent. Do you not recognize who I am? How dare you stop me?" Mo Yan stared at the two and screamed, "We dare not." The two guards hurriedly gestured. "Young Miss Mo Yan, this guard holds you in high regards. However, the clan rules are absolute, so how about this? You can bring one servant in. This is the most we can do for you." An elderly guard politely responded. Mo Yan clicked her tongue. Her heart was full of dissatisfaction, yet in the presence of the clan rules, she did not dare to break them. The Mo family was prosperous, and thus they had many enemies. Do not forget that aside from the Mo family branch, there was also the Qi family to contend with. Apart from the Qi family, the clan head's faction also wanted to get a hold on the Mo family. "All of you stay behind. Gao Wan will follow me." Thinking about it, Mo Yan gave her orders. Gao Wan immediately held his chest up high with a look of joy on his face. "Thank you, young miss, for the opportunity." Let's go, Junior. Mo Yin smiled at Fang Yuan with a questioning look. Fang Yuan remained unfazed as he led them in. He reached the dormitory door, opened the lock, and pushed the door open. He then took a step into the room and stopped. Within the room, there was nothing extra. It was all simple furniture, and there was no one else. Mo Yin stood at the doorstep, took a look inside, and her face turned grim. Junior, you better explain yourself well. There is no one in the room. Fang Yuan smiled faintly. Aren't I someone? Mo Yin stared at Fang Yuan, a glint flashing in her eyes as she suddenly seemed to have understood. I am looking for Gu, you Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan snickered. You know, I never said that I wasn't Gu you Fang Yuan. T/N. Here's a special double chapter release for your pleasure. Happy weekend. That will come in 2 days as per normal. Asterisk, this chapter was brought to you by Chibijan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibijan for helping with the translations. Donations will be opened up and I wish you all well. Thanks for all the support so far. Chapter 33. Go ahead and scold away. Mo Yin frowned, then her rage burst forth almost instantly as she suddenly understood that she had been fooled by Fang Yuan. You were tremendously brave to even consider lying to me. While speaking, she stretched out her right hand to grab hold of Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan stood firmly on the spot. He raised his head and laughed. Mo Yin, you better think this through. Mo Yin stopped her actions. While she still stood right outside the door, her outstretched hand paused in midair, and her face showed a sign of hesitation and resentment. Within the family, there were relevant rules. Students in the dormitories were protected, and any other person would not be allowed to intrude upon the hostel to capture the students. Mo Yin only wished to teach Fang Yuan a lesson and let him bear a taste of suffering. She definitely did not want to risk getting punished for breaking the rules. If it's only me who broke the rules, that would still be fine. However, if this would affect the family and even grandfather's honor, thinking of this, Mo Yin reluctantly withdrew her arm. She looked at Fang Yuan, who was inside the house with her bloodshot eyes. If her death stare could be converted into fire, it would burn Fang Yuan to ashes in a second. I never lied to you. I said I would bring you to Fang Yuan, and now you have already found him here. It seems you have something to say to me. Fang Yuan smiled faintly with his arms behind his back, ignoring the pressure of a rank 2 Gu master, fearlessly making eye contact with Mo Yin's furious gaze. He was just a step apart from Mo Yin. One stood within the house, and one stayed outside. But this same distance had also become as far as the east was from the west. Oh Fang Yuan, you sure have studied the clan rules well and thoroughly. Mo Yin, suppressing her anger, said with a sinister smile. She added, unfortunately for you, even while relying on the rules, all it will do for you is to stall for time. There is no way you are staying in the dormitories forever. I'll see how long you can stand hiding in there. Fang Yuan laughed refreshingly and looked at Mo Yin with disdain. Then all the more I want to see how long you can disturb me. It is already late. I have a bed to sleep in, but what about you? If I do not show up for class tomorrow and the elders come to investigate, what do you think I will say? You. Mo Yin flew into a rage, her fingers pointing at Fang Yuan, barely restraining herself. Do you really think I wouldn't dare come in and take you down? Squeak. Fang Yuan opened the doors of the hostel wide open, his lips breaking into a grin, his eyes dark like the abyss and his tone full of confidence as if the situation was within his grasp. He challenged Mo Yin, then show me. Mo Yin calmed down instead upon seeing this. Her eyes squinted as she looked at Fang Yuan and she said, do you think I'd fall for your goading? Fang Yuan shrugged. He had already seen through Mo Yin's personality. If he had closed the door, or even half shut it, Mo Yin had at least a 50% probability of breaking into the house. But when he purposely opened it fully, it had instead made her more wary and calm as a result. Thus there was barely any chance of her forcing her way in any more. 500 years of experience had already made him fully aware of the human nature and their weaknesses. He grandly turned around, exposing his back fully to Mo Yin. If Mo Yin struck now, she would definitely be able to capture him in one swift action. However, Mo Yin stayed still outside the door as if there was an invisible mountain blocking her way. Even after Fang Yuan sat in his bed, Mo Yin only stared at him in anger, gritting her teeth. But regardless of this, she did not make a move. This is the pathetic side of humans. Fang Yuan sat up and stared at Mo Yin, who was outside looking like a fool, thinking to himself, at times, the things preventing people from taking action is not physical difficulty, but instead it is the restrictions they have placed on themselves subconsciously. When comparing cultivation levels, Fang Yuan was definitely not her match at this point in time. But even with her rank 2 cultivation level, she could only stare at Fang Yuan and had no courage to make a move. Her distance from him was only a few steps away, and the door was wide open with no hindrance. The only thing that was truly restricting her was none other than herself. Humanity sought for knowledge relentlessly to understand the world and to comprehend the rules, and ultimately to use them. If one is constantly bound by the rules, thus being restricted by the very knowledge they sought, that is the ultimate tragedy. Fang Yuan took a final look at Mo Yin before closing his eyes and letting his consciousness sink into the primeval sea. This Fang Yuan dares to cultivate right in front of me. He is simply doing so as he pleases. Looking at this sight, Mo Yin felt a sense of frustration erupting from her chest, making her almost wanting to vomit blood. She badly wanted to go ahead and give him a few punches, but she knew she couldn't. Mo Yin suddenly felt a hint of regret. Standing outside the door, she felt the awkwardness of not being able to back down. She was indignant to give up now, but she would be devastatingly humiliated. She mobilized her servants with the intention to come and teach Fang Yuan a lesson, yet in the end she was the one who ended up becoming the laughingstock, especially when there was a servant looking at her now. Damn it. Fang Yuan is way too uncooperative. He's too sly. Mo Yin furiously thought and started to provoke him with all sorts of insults, hoping to force him out of the room. Fang Yuan, you brat. Come out if you're a man. Fang Yuan, as a man you must own up to your own doings. Now you're being a coward hiding in that room. Do you not feel ashamed of yourself? Stop pretending to ignore me. Get out if you know what's good for you. You cowardly, spineless trash. Fang Yuan shut his ears and did not give a single response. After scolding for a while, instead of venting all her anger, she felt even more irritated. She was starting to feel like a clown or a shrew. Blocking the door was just way too embarrassing. This is getting to the death of me. Mo Yin was about to go crazy, and she finally gave up on provoking Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, you can hide now, but you can't hide from me forever. She furiously stomped the ground and left indignantly. Before leaving, she gave a final order. Gao Wan, stand there and watch him. I do not believe he will not leave the house. Yes, master. The muscular servant, Gao Wan, rapidly replied and sent Mo Yin off. Within his heart he was feeling bitter. The mountain was chilly and breezy at night. He would have to stand guard the entire time, catching a cold easily like this. It was not an easy task. Swish swoosh, within the primeval sea, ebb and flow of the tides raged on. The green copper primeval essence gathered like water, forcing a tidal wave rolling about. Under Fang Yuan's mental guidance, the waves endlessly crashed towards the surrounding aperture walls. A rank 1 initial stage Gu Master's aperture walls resembled a white barrier. At this time, with the green copper primeval essence crashing towards them, it produced shadows of light, creating an indescribable feeling. Time passed gradually and the level of the green copper primeval sea slowly declined. From the original 44%, it dropped to 12%. If a Gu Master wants to raise their cultivation level, they would have to expend their primeval essence to nurture the aperture. Initial stage Gu Masters have light barriers as their aperture walls, while middle stage Gu Masters have water barriers as their aperture walls, and for upper stage, they have stone barriers. For me to cultivate from initial stage to middle stage, I will have to nurture the light barrier into water barrier aperture walls. From his 500 years of memories, Fang Yuan had complete familiarity with the current stages of cultivation, and the methods were as clear as day to him. He slowly opened his eyes, only to see that it was already late into the night. The crescent moon hung high in the night sky, the moonlight shining pure as water. The door was wide open and the moonlight shone in, letting Fang Yuan think of a famous poem from Earth. On a quiet night, I saw the moonlight before my couch, and wondered if it were not the frost on the ground. 1. The night winds blew with a hint of chilliness. Fang Yuan did not have any warmth type Gu, and with just the body of a 15-year-old, he could not help but shiver slightly. The night in the mountain was very cold. Scoundrel. You finally opened your eyes. How long are you planning to be cultivating there? Get out. You'll be punished regardless. You beat up our young master Mo Bei, so it was only a matter of time before young Miss teaches you a lesson. Seeing that Fang Yuan had woken up, Gao Wan, who was standing at the door, got his spirits up. Fang Yuan squinted. It seemed that the rank 2 female Gu Master had left. Scoundrel. Did you hear me? Hurry and come out here. You have a room to stay in and a bed to sleep, but I had to stand here all night. If you don't come out any time soon, don't you believe I might just barge in? Seeing no reaction from Fang Yuan, Gao Wan threatened. Fang Yuan remained unfazed. Scumbag, come out and surrender yourself. You've offended the Mo family, you will not have any good days from now on. Hurry and apologize to young miss, and maybe she might just forgive you. Gao Wan continued to chide. Fang Yuan did not listen to a single word. He took out a primeval stone from his storage bag and held it in his hands, finally closing his eyes again. Seeing that he was going to continue cultivating, Gao Wan was anxious and broke into a fit. You mere C-rank talent. The most you can achieve in life is a rank 2 Gu master. What is there to cultivate? You are no match for the entire Mo family by yourself. Kid, are you deaf? Did you listen to a single word I said? 1. A famous poem from Li Bai, a Chinese poet. Asterisk, this chapter was brought to you by Chibijan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibijan for helping with the translations. Chapter 34. Suppressive Beating. Fang Yuan paid no heed to the man and started to multitask. He simultaneously absorbed the natural essence from the primeval stone and observed his aperture. The primeval sea level, which had originally fell drastically within the aperture, with help from the constant stream of natural essence, began to slowly rise up again. This form of recovery speed was inevitably slow, but Fang Yuan was in no hurry. Cultivation was meant to be accumulative. It could not be rushed. The urgent matter at hand was in fact the middle-aged servant outside the house. After half an hour, Fang Yuan's green copper primeval sea reached 44%, the maximum capacity it could hold. But this was not the end.at. This point the primeval sea showed a jade-green color. This was only a rank 1 initial stage green copper primeval essence. The primeval essence that Fang Yuan had previously used to nurture the aperture wall was no longer initial stage primeval essence. It had been turned into middle stage primeval essence, refined by the liquor worm. Liquor worm. With a thought from Fang Yuan, the liquor worm within the primeval sea instantly flew out and hovered in midair, its body curling into a ball form, resembling a white rice ball. Swoosh. 10% of his initial stage primeval essence was deployed and sent into the liquor worm's body, and soon the essence was fully absorbed by it. Soon after, a surge of liquor mist emerged from the liquor worm's body and congregated into a lump. Once more, Fang Yuan deployed 10% of his primeval essence and invested it into this liquor mist. Once the mist had been fully expended, the original 10% of initial stage primeval essence shrunk by half physically, and at the same time the color changed from jade green to pale green. This is middle stage primeval essence. In order to advance in their cultivation, ordinary students all use initial stage primeval essence. However, I'll be using middle stage primeval essence, and the efficiency is at least twice of theirs. Similarly, when using middle stage primeval essence to activate the moonlight goo and throw a moon blade, it will be far stronger than activating it using initial stage primeval essence. Only when all the primeval essence in the primeval sea had been converted to middle stage primeval essence did Fang Yuan open his eyes. Time passes in the blink of an eye when cultivating, and at this point it was already midnight. The sky was no longer a pure black, but it had turned a deep dark blue color. The moon was no longer visible, and only a few lingering stars remained. The door was open almost throughout the entire night, and a corner of the wooden door was already wet, showing a dark color as the water tainted it. The school hostel had this disadvantage: it was not as comfortable as an ordinary wooden lodge that was built above the ground. 1. But it was directly built on the ground, and thus it had high humidity. Coming back to reality, Fang Yuan felt a chill down his spine. After sitting cross-legged for such a long time, both his legs felt numb. He opened his clenched right fist and scattered a handful of white stone powder. This was the primeval stone after its essence had been fully absorbed, and what remained was only the leftover powder. After a night of cultivation, I had expended 3 primeval stones. Fang Yuan calculated in his mind. He had C-rank talent, but in order to pursue faster cultivation speed, he used primeval stones to replenish his primeval essence. What was more crucial was the liquor worm, as it had been used to refine his middle-stage primeval essence. This had greatly increased the expenditure of his primeval stones, although I plundered another sum of primeval stones yesterday. A night of cultivation cost me 3 stones. In this case, although it might seem that I have a lot of resources, it is unable to sustain me for a long time with my current cultivation speed. But this is the price I have to pay for pursuing cultivation speed and efficiency. Fang Yuan looked outside the room again, only to see Gao Wan, the muscular servant, squatting at a corner with his body curled up, seemingly fallen asleep. Looks like that rank 2 female Gu master had left long ago, leaving this Gao Wan here to keep a watch on me. Hiki. Fang Yuan revealed a cold smile as he got off the bed and began to exercise his limbs. Once his body had warmed up, he left the hostel. Lad, you finally decided to come out. So how about it? Obediently surrender and leave with me to kowtow and apologize to our young Mississippi. Gao Wan's ears caught Fang Yuan's footsteps and he stood up immediately. His muscular body was almost twice the size of Fang Yuan. The muscles in his body tightened and his brows knitted together, a pair of cruel eyes shining with evil light, resembling a starving hyena. Fang Yuan expressionlessly walked towards him. Lad, you should have came out earlier. By coming out now, do you know how much the great me had to suffer by watching over you? He snickered while approaching Fang Yuan, evidently planning something sinister. At this moment, Fang Yuan lightly cried out, and with a ferocious leap he aimed both fists towards Gao Wan. Bastard, you're courting death. Gao Wan's face distorted with rising anger within him, raised his brick-sized fist, and he punched towards Fang Yuan. The fist was extremely powerful, slicing through air, and the swooshing sound of the wind could be heard. Fang Yuan's eyes shone clear as crystal. Seeing that the fist was approaching close, he sidestepped and turned towards Gao Wan's rear. Stretching out a finger, he struck towards Gao Wan's waist. Gao Wan blocked with his retracted arm. Fang Yuan did not get a clear hit, and ended up hitting onto Gao Wan's left forearm. Fang Yuan's finger felt like it had hit a steel plate, painful and numb. This Gao Wan has already approached the limits of a mortal's physical prowess. Right now I can only use the Moonlight Gu to fight, and without any other Gu worms to assist me, I am not his match at basic close combat. Fang Yuan's eyes shone, and he decided quickly to give up on attacking. Instead, he retracted a few steps and pulled some distance away from Gao Wan. In the Guyu village, only the Guyu clansmen had the rights to cultivate as a Gu master. The outsiders, regardless of whether they had cultivation talent or not, had no rights to attend the awakening ceremony. But these mortals could train in physical combat, just like the Gao Wan here. Although he was not a Gu master, he had trained vigorously in his punches and kicks, and his basic skill was steadfast. Additionally, he was a middle-aged man, and this meant being at the physical prime in a mortal's lifetime. Fang Yuan, other than having the Moonlight Gu to fight, had only the body of a 15-year-old teenager. Be it strength, agility, or endurance, he was not Gao Wan's match. Martial artists like Gao Wan were sufficient enough to kill a rank 1 initial stage Gu master. Even towards a rank 1 middle stage Gu master, they still posed a certain threat. This lad is too sneaky. Seeing that Fang Yuan had drawn some distance between them, Gao Wan felt anxiety within his heart. The waist was a vital point of the body, and if it was damaged by someone through brute force, the harm was not negligible. If the force was exerted beyond a point, it could also be deadly. Gao Wan had waited outside the hostel for the entire night, and thus his body was enshrouded by the moist atmosphere, causing his reaction speed to be slightly slower. Hence the strike earlier had almost succeeded. Fortunately, although he was a bootlicker, he had trained hard in his physical ability. So at the crucial moment his body's reflex instinctively reacted and allowed him to narrowly block Fang Yuan's attack. I can't be careless anymore. This lad behaves like a wolf, striking harsh and deviously, getting his way whenever I am even but a little careless. No wonder young master was knocked out by him twice. Gao Wan wiped the sweat off his forehead and swept away all hints of contempt. He started to take his opponent seriously. If I can capture this lad, it'd be a great accomplishment. Young Miss is sure to reward me. A rank 1 initial stage's moon blade is at max only like a small dagger, so as long as it does not hit my vital points, it'll merely be a light external injury. Thinking of this, Gao Wan's heart started to beat faster. Stretching out his shovel-like hands, he grabbed at Fang Yuan. Boom, boom, boom. Fang Yuan showed no fear and approached Gao Wan to engage in close combat. Exchanging punches and kicks, taking turns attacking and defending, loud impact sounds echoed through the area. When plundering the students, he had only used his palm with his objective being to control the crowd. But now when engaging with Gao Wan, Fang Yuan had gone all out. At times he used his fingers to jab at the eyes, sometimes strangling the throat, hitting the jaw with the base of his palm, chopping at the back of his opponent's head. Using the knee to strike the pelvic area, or using his hands to grab at the waist, Gao Wan's sweat poured out like a river. Fang Yuan's moves were all aiming at the vital points, each strike devious and deadly as if he wanted to end Gao Wan's life right there. Gao Wan was a mere mortal, and unlike the Gu masters, although he trained well in his physical combat, his vital points remained vital. Mortals were unable to train their eyelids to become steel-like. This was the limits of the mortal martial arts. In addition, Gao Wan did not dare to unleash any deadly moves on Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan was a Guyu clansman, so killing him would incur public rage, and he would be immediately executed. In fact, the Mo family will be the first to carry out his punishment. Thus his only thought was to capture Fang Yuan alive, and it would be good if he could make Fang Yuan suffer in the process of capture. One side has apprehension while the other side had killing intent. The situation thus became Fang Yuan suppressing Gao Wan in the fight. 1. Ordinary wooden lodge that was built above the ground, see image. This chapter was brought to you by Chibijan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibijan for helping with the translations. Chapter 35. Go ahead and scream. Fang Yuan had the upper hand for now, but it could not sustain him for much longer. Exchanging blows back and forth, he was already panting in exhaustion. In contrast, Gao Wan's breathing was still smooth and in sync, reflecting the huge difference in stamina between the two. At the same time as Gao Wan exercised his limbs, his body gradually heated up while his punching speed became faster and faster. The effect of the cold that caused him to be slow and numb had worn off, displaying the true skills honed by his training for decades. Lad, you were unable to beat me. There are clan rules stating that within the school hostel, you are forbidden from using the moonlight goo. You are dead meat, doomed to be my captive. Gao Wan laughed maniacally. His fighting experience was rich, so he attempted to use words to cause Fang Yuan's fighting spirit to waver. In the end, I'm only just a teenager, and my body that hasn't fully developed cannot be compared to this servant. Fang Yuan's state of mind was calm as ice. Having sharpened his will for 500 years, there was no way his fighting spirit would waver. Moonlight goo. He called out in his mind, activating his primeval essence and at the same time leaping backwards to pull away from Gao Wan. Gao Wan wanted to chase after him, but he suddenly saw a watery blue light emitting from Fang Yuan's palm. His face darkened and he shouted, Lad, you were using the goo worm to fight in the school hostel. This is against the clan rules. So what if I break the rules? Fang Yuan sneered. He learnt the clan rules and memorized it to heart, but it was not for the sake of obeying it. Immediately, his palm slashed an arc towards Gao Wan. With a ching sound, the blue moon blade flew towards Gao Wan's face. Gao Wan gritted his teeth as he raised both arms to cover his face, forming a protective shield. At the same time, he rushed towards Fang Yuan without pause, planning to endure the attack while ending the battle as quickly as he could. The moon blade struck his arm. With a popping sound, his flesh and blood poured out under the moonlight, a wave of extreme pain hitting Gao Wan's nerves. The unguarded man nearly fainted from the pain. How can this be? His rush towards Fang Yuan stopped, and he frightfully found out that both his limbs had been cut open with a deep wound. Fresh blood oozed out from the wound and from the side, while bloody muscles could be observed hanging around his flesh. Even the broken white bones of the forearm could be seen. Gao Wan was shocked beyond words. This is impossible. A rank 1 initial stage moon blade, the most it could do is to lightly injure my flesh. How could it cut through my bones? Only a rank 1 middle stage can do this. He had no idea. While Fang Yuan was a rank 1 initial stage goo master, due to the liquor worm's refining, he possessed rank 1 middle stage primeval essence. The moonlight goo, activated using middle stage primeval essence, emitted a moon blade far superior to the initial stage that he originally predicted. This is bad. This boy is weird. Gao Wan, who was caught off guard, had already suffered a grave injury. His fighting spirit was gone, and he decisively decided to retreat. Are you able to escape? Fang Yuan smiled coldly as he started to give chase, the moon blades in his hands shooting out consecutively. Save me! Gao Wan shouted out in horror as he fled, his voice traveling far out beyond the school hostel. What is going on? Someone is asking for help. The voice alerted the school hostel guards who were nearby. It's the Mo family's young miss, Mo Yan's servant. The guards who arrived stopped in their tracks upon seeing the chasing scene. This is only a servant. There is no need for us to risk protecting him. Letting him stay here was already a favor towards the Mo family. We still have to be careful, just in case he hurts Fang Yuan in desperation. The anxious guards all gathered around, but no one lent a hand to Gao Wan. They only observed from the sidelines. This servant Gao Wan, even if he died, it had nothing to do with them. However, if Fang Yuan died or got hurt, it would be their responsibility. Seeing such a sight, Gao Wan despaired. He tragically screamed, "We are all outsiders. You cannot leave me to die." His blood loss was getting more severe, and his speed decreased. Fang Yuan caught up to him, his voice cold as ice, announcing Gao Wan's death sentence. Go ahead and scream. It doesn't matter how loud you do so. While saying that, The blade in his arm rotated, and he fired 2 moon blades towards Gao Wan. Swoosh, swoosh. The moon blades flew towards Gao Wan's neck. The servant lost all hope, seemingly one step away into the abyss. The next moment, he felt that his world was spinning. He actually saw his own feet, chest, back, and that severed neck. Afterwards, total darkness awaited him. Gao Wan had died. Beheaded by 2 moon blades, his head flew away from the impact. His body pushed back 10 meters before falling. The neck area spewed out a fountain of fresh blood, dyeing the surrounding grass a blood red. Murder. Fang Yuan killed someone. The guards could not help but scream out. They had witnessed the entire process, and they felt a sense of extreme trepidation and terror rushing all over their body. Fang Yuan was just a weak 15-year-old teenager, but he expressionlessly murdered a strong adult. This was the power of a Gu master. The victory had been set. Fang Yuan slowed in his footsteps and gradually moved towards the corpse. His face was calm, as if he had done nothing out of the ordinary. This expression further sent a shiver down the guards' spines. Gao Wan's head lay on the ground, both his eyes wide open, turning in his grave. Fang Yuan stared coldly. He raised his leg and sent the head flying. The guard's eyelids twitched. Fang Yuan approached the corpse and found that it was still vibrating. The blood spread through the ground, forming a small bloody puddle. He looked at Gao Wan's injuries with a grim expression. These injuries were deep enough to expose the secret to the fact that he had middle-stage primeval essence. Once this was exposed, it'll be quickly deduced that he had a liquor worm, and with that the family would naturally think of the flower wine mug. Thus, Fang Yuan had to keep this secret hidden, but there are too many onlookers. Fang Yuan's gaze swept through the nearby guards. There was more than 10 of them. He had less than 10% primeval essence left, so there was no way to kill them all. After pondering for a while, Fang Yuan bent down and raised Gao Wan's ankle, dragging the corpse away. "Young Master Fang Yuan, you can leave this to us." The guards controlled their fear and approached Fang Yuan, politely speaking. The respect and politeness held a tint of obvious fear. Fang Yuan silently looked at the guards, and they all held their breaths, looking down. "Give me the saber." He stretched out his hand and lightly said. With authority in his speech, he emitted undeniable pressure. The guard closest to him uncontrollably handed him the saber on his waist. Fang Yuan took the saber over and continued walking, leaving behind a dozen stunned guards staring after his back. The sun rose from the east, and the first ray of light shone over the mountain peak, lighting up the school hostel. 15-year-old Fang Yuan, with the scrawny body of a teenager, a pale look upon his skin. Under the sunrise, he casually walked. In his left hand was a shiny saber. In his right hand, a headless corpse. His path left behind a trail of bright red blood traces dragged out on the road. The guards were flabbergasted, their bodies stiff due to the frightening scene. Even as the sunlight shone on them, they could not feel a sense of warmth and light. Gulp. Someone among them swallowed their saliva loudly. Author's note. He's just asking for readers to recommend his book to others. Second half is just trying to motivate the readers. For a book that is just written, there will be people who like it and people who don't. For those who don't like it, there is no need to struggle/force yourselves. You can just go and read another book. For those who like it, please do your best to support the book. On the first day of the new year, I ask for recommendations. Please bookmark this book. After the apocalypse, I implore everyone of the same Tao to display their strengths, gather our powers, and rise up as the demonic flames, and let the people of the world see the power of us demon cultivators. In the new year, those that defend the last remaining territory of the demonic ways, let the demonic way rise up again and become legendary. This chapter was brought to you by Chibijan and Skypharaoh. Credits to Chibijan for helping with the translations. Donations are finally open for Reverend Insanity. Knocked out face /